For your reading lesson today, I wanted to take another look at the kissing hand. And before we start to read the story, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. The first one is directionality. Directionality is just a big word for how we read the words on the page. Directionality means that we start at the top of the page and we work our way down to the bottom of the page because we always read from the top to the bottom. And directionality also means that we start on the left and we work towards the right. All right? So directionality means we read from left to right and from top to bottom. And because every reader and every writer follows that rule, it makes it very easy to read the words on the page because that's how they're always organized for us, from the top to the bottom and from the left to the right. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is a comprehension strategy. And a comprehension strategy is a way that readers understand what they're reading better. A comprehension strategy helps you understand what you're reading. And the comprehension strategy that we are going to use today is called making connections. And good readers can make a connection between the story that they're reading and something that happened in their life. And I think with the kissing hand, it's pretty easy to make a connection between Chester Raccoon starting school and our own lives right now with the way that we're starting school right now. So let's go ahead and read The Kissing Hand by Audrey Penn. It's illustrated by Ruth E. Harper and Nancy M. Leake. Chester Raccoon stood at the edge of the forest and cried. "I don't want to go to school," he told his mother. "I want to stay home with you. I want to play with my friends and play with my toys and read my books and swing on my swing. May I please stay home with you?" Now I can make a connection between how Chester feels and how I felt when I first started school, because I felt kind of afraid, just a little bit scared the first time that I came to school because I didn't know anyone there. And I think that Chester might be feeling that same way, and that's the reason that he wants to stay home. Mrs. Raccoon took Chester by the hand and nuzzled him on the ear. "Sometimes we all have to do things we don't want to do," she told him gently, "even if they seem strange and scary at first. But you will love school once you start." Now, good readers make connections between the story and their own experiences. So look at the words and the pictures on this page. The way that Mrs. Raccoon talks to Chester Raccoon reminds me of the way that my mother would talk to me when I felt afraid. Mrs. Raccoon comforts Chester, and sometimes my mom would comfort me by holding my hand or giving me a hug. And I think that the way that Mrs. Raccoon is talking to Chester and the things that she's going to do is going to help him to feel better very soon. "You'll make new friends and play with new toys, read new books and swing on new swings. Besides," she added, "I know a wonderful secret that will make your nights at school seem as warm and cozy as your days at home." Chester wiped away his tears and looked interested. "A secret? What kind of secret?" "A very old secret," said Mrs. Raccoon. "I learned it from my mother, and she learned it from hers. It's called the kissing hand." "The kissing hand?" asked Chester. "What's that?" Now, look at the illustrations on this page. Mrs. Raccoon takes Chester's hand because she wants to get his attention before she starts to share her secret. And I can make that connection to my own life by how my father showed me how to hit a golf ball. He had a way of how to line up your hands and to pull back the golf club before that you would hit it. And sometimes he would guide my hands as he taught me these things. And I think the kissing hand is kind of like a secret set of instructions, like my father's directions for how to best hit a golf ball. I'll show you. Mrs. Raccoon took Chester's left hand and spread open his tiny fingers into a fan. Leaning forward, she kissed Chester right in the middle of his palm. Chester felt his mother's kiss rush from his hand, up his arm, and into his heart. Even his silky black mask tingled with a special warmth. Now, making connections between the story and our own experiences help us understand what the characters are feeling. This feeling of warmth and tingling reminds me of when I get a nice hug from somebody that I love. Mrs. Raccoon smiled. Now, she told Chester, whenever you feel lonely and need a little loving from home, just press your hand to your cheek and think, Mommy loves you. Mommy loves you. And that very kiss will jump to your face and fill you with toasty, warm thoughts. She took Chester's hand and carefully wrapped his fingers around the kiss. Now, do be careful not to lose it, she teased him. But don't worry, when you open your hand and wash your food, I promise that the kiss will stick. Chester loved his kissing hand. Now he knew his mother's love would go with him wherever he went, even to school. That night, Chester stood in front of his school and looked thoughtful. Suddenly, he turned to his mother and grinned. Give me your hand, he told her. Now look at the illustrations on this page. Good readers make connections to help them understand things in the story better. The story says that Chester stood in front of his school and looked thoughtful. Well, I know that look. I see that look on students' faces when they're thinking about something or trying to figure out something. So, what does your thoughtful face look like? Does it look like when we stop and think about our color riddle? That's a thoughtful face that we have then. Chester took his mother's hand into his own and unfolded her large, familiar fingers into a fan. Next, he leaned forward and kissed the center of her hand. Now you have a kissing hand too, he told her, and with a gentle goodbye and an I love you, Chester turned and danced away. Mrs. Raccoon watched Chester scamper across a tree limb and enter school, and as the hoot owl rang in the new school year, she pressed her left hand to her cheek and smiled. Now, good readers make connections to help them understand things better. Look at this illustration here of the hoot owl. And when I read the phrase, and the hoot owl rang in the new school year, it reminds me of a phrase, ring in the new year. I hear it on January 1st, and it reminds me that that bell is the sound of a new beginning, and that hoot owl must just make that sound to signal a new school year. The warmth of Chester's kiss filled her heart with special words. Chester loves you, it sang. Chester loves you. This is another place in the story that reminds me of words that I had seen earlier in the story when I read, you remember when I read, Mommy loves you, Mommy loves you? Yes. Now Chester gave her the kissing hand, and she is hearing, Chester loves you, Chester loves you. Oh, that's the end of our story. And before I let you go, though, there are some vocabulary words that I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to talk to you about the words sometimes, secret, interested, and around. And let me find our first word, sometimes. It was way back at the beginning of our story. There it is. And they've marked our vocabulary words with that yellow highlight. Do you see that? All right. This is the word sometimes. And sometimes means from time to time or on certain occasions. So I want you to read this again. Sometimes we all have to do things we don't want to do. If I replace this word sometimes with the definition that I gave you, from time to time, does it make sense? From time to time, we all have to do things we don't want to do. Yes, that definitely does make sense. Sometimes means from time to time. Not all the time, but on certain occasions. The other word that I wanted to talk to you about, I believe, is just next page. There it is. It's the word secret. Now, secret means a fact that is known to one or just a few people. A secret is not something that everybody knows. So, the word secret here describes what Mrs. Raccoon is telling Chester about the kissing hand, right? That's their secret because not everybody knows about the kissing hand. All right, let's move on to find the word interested. There it is. There's the word interested. And if you are interested in something, you want to know more about it or you want to be a part of it. And when Mrs. Raccoon takes Chester's hand, he is very interested in what she's about to tell him. He wants to know more about it. He's very interested. And the last word that I want to talk to you about is further back in our story. There it is. It's the word around. Now, around means circling or on all sides. So when she wrapped his fingers around the kiss, that means she covered that kiss up that was in the palm of his hand on all sides. She surrounded it, she circled it with his fingers. All right, that's the word around. Now, if you want to go back and read the story again with somebody at home, you do have access to it on Monday's assignment, so you can read the kissing hand